Welcome, fellow bookworms, to TBR's Den. My name is Whitney, and today we have November's round of Once Upon a TBR Honey Jar, which is my TBR game where I pick books for the month. This will be the last game of the year, because in December I am doing my 25 Days of Bookmas. I think I wrapped 24 this year. But I'll be doing my 24 days of Bookmas like I do every year, only this year I specifically wanted to focus on holiday books. I already got them all and wrapped them all up, and so I'm really excited to start that in December. I think this year I'm probably going to be doing it like week by week for you guys, instead of doing like one long or two, one long video. Sometimes I break it up into two parts. I think doing like a weekly vlog on that will be a lot of fun, and I can't wait. I'm so excited for December, but first we need to get through November. I do have about 8 books I need to specifically get on this TBR. Generally, my genre-a-thon book, which if you don't know what genre-a-thon is, my readathon, that each month is a year-long readathon, and each month we're focusing on a different genre or genre-adjacent prompt. Normally, I have that as just an added book to my TBR, but I think this year, if the book I have chosen works for the game, I'm going to go with it because it's a denser book, and I have some other denser books on here. So I think if it works, I'm going to go ahead and slot it in for a spot on my game TBR, but we'll just have to see. But yeah, I have 8 books I for sure need to get, and then about another 5 or 6 books that I would like to get on here. And so we'll just have to see how the game goes. I'm so excited to play again. I had taken a little break like I did July through September, and then I did play for October, and now again for November. I love my game so much. I love playing it, and so taking a break is really hard sometimes, even though it did end up helping me out a little bit. I think there's only one prompt. Let me see if I can grab it here, that I need to put back in. And so that is the bookworm, and it's TBR in the title. And this one was the last book, so I did my, like I said, the one game from July through September, and in September I only had one book left, and unfortunately I did not get to it, so I don't get a reward. Normally my punishment is to roll over one of the books from my TBR, and I have to read that book before I can carry on. There was 2 other books I didn't get to that weren't part of the official game but were part of my TBR that I'm going to be reading right off the bat, plus 3 others, and so I'm going to count those as kind of my punishment. I need to finish those up before I can jump into anything else, and I'm not going to count the last book of the game. So this one would go back in regardless, but especially since I didn't finish, it will go back in to the honey jar. And so yeah, let me go ahead and get the game board all set up, and then we will get into gameplay. All right, so I do still have 2 rewards from previous games. And so if I have a honey jar prompt that I don't want to do, I can use a reward to forego it. And then just a reminder, we have to choose our character first. So if we get a 1, that's Christopher Robin, which is a coming of age or middle grade. If we roll a 2, that's Pooh, and that's a classic or comfort read. 3 is Piglet, which is an auto by author or reread. 4 is Rabbit, which is a free choice. 5 is Owl, which is a memoir, biography, or nonfiction. 6 is Tigger, which is lighthearted or fast-paced. 7 is Eeyore, which is literary or dystopian. And 8 is Kanga and Roo, which is manga or graphic novel, or a children's book. If we get Kanga and Roo again, we did roll them last time, so I have the option to re-roll if I so choose. And then the genres, if we land on a blue, that is sci-fi, a yellow is historical, green is fantasy, red is romance, orange is mystery, thriller, or horror, purple is any genre, and if we land on a black, we move forward 3 spaces and use that genre. but we also had to pull 2 honey jar prompts. Now this year, genres of course are just kind of a guidance. The honey jar prompt is the most important. And so if I can find something that fits the honey jar prompt but not the genre, I'm going to go with it. And yeah, I think that's all. We're moving 2 squares for each color still, except for purple or black. So let's go ahead and roll and see what character we're moving. 7. So that is going to be Mr. Eeyore, which is my favorite character, and that is either a literary or a dystopian. So let me go ahead and get the game all cleared, and then we'll get started. All right, so let's see what our first disc is. We'll go with this one. All right, so we're starting with a blue, so we go 1 and 2. So that would be a sci-fi that fulfills the prompt of, let's do this one. Okay, so loved one pick. So I have to, one of my loved ones, I have to have them pick. So we'll see what we can do there. All right. Yours a little big for the board, but that's okay. Let's see. This one. Okay, we got an orange, which is thriller, horror, or mystery. We go 1 and 2. This is Christopher Robin or Pooh to the next yellow, but we're not playing either one of those, so it doesn't count. So we need a horror, mystery, or thriller that fulfills the prompt of, we'll do this one. Okay, out of comfort zone, it's Tigger. Next. See this one? Ooh, nice, a black. So we go here, and then 1, 2, 3 is this green one. And so that's a fantasy, and again we have to pull 2 prompts because we landed on a black. So the first one will be, well, we'll just do both these 2. So first we have, a translated work. We have Pinocchio. And we have another Tigger, T-I-G-G-R, which is an ABC author, so a random letter combined with a translated work. If I can choose one book that fulfills both prompt, I can just do one book. Otherwise, I have to do 2 books. All right. So far, these aren't going to be so easy. So let's see what we get next. You got another blue. So we go 1 and 2. So another sci-fi that fulfills the prompt of, okay. So this is The Little Mermaid, and it needs to be a paternal main character. Man, this game's being tough. All right, let's see here. And this one, another orange. So we go 1 and 2. So another mystery, thriller, or horror that fulfills the prompt of, let's do this one. Oops. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood, red cover. Next. And this one, which is a red. So we go 1 and 2. So a romance this time. That fulfills the prompt of, this one. So this is Rabbit, and it's not my garden, so kind of something where bad things just keep happening to the character. These are tough this round. Okay, and this one, another blue. So we go 1 and 2, and that says Christopher Robin to next blue, which again we're not playing him, so we just stay there. So another sci-fi that fits the prompt of, I want this one. I'll put that one back. Okay, let's see. Ooh, okay, we got Aladdin, Genie, or Jinn. All right, let's see here. This one, another blue. So we go 1 and 2. That gets us really close to the end here. And this one needs to fulfill the prompt of, let's do this one. Okay, so a book talk pick. All right, black, red, or blue, we're done. Orange we can move. Anything else just goes off to the side. Let's see what we get. We'll do this one. Okay, green. We can't use that. Do this one. Blue. This one. Another green. Okay. This one. Yellow. Purple. Green. I think that's the most unusable disc we've had in a long time, if at all. Another yellow. That's 7 unusable discs. Holy Hannah. Okay. Alright, now we get an orange, which means we're not done and we can only move 1. So another mystery, thriller, or horror that fulfills the prompt of, let's do this one. Oops. Okay, this is Hercules, and it's no damsel in distress. So kind of like a strong female protagonist. Okay, again, black, red, or blue, we're done. Anything else continues to go off to the side. So, see this one? Another purple. And this one? Alright, red, finally. So we're at the North Pole. And because it's the North Pole, it can be any genre. It just needs to fulfill the prompt of, let's do this one. Okay, so we have Elsa and Anna, Insidious Takeover. I'm going to figure out what books I'm going to get, and I will be right back. Alright, that was an undertaking. Some of these definitely don't match the genres. I did kind of the best I could. But these were some hard prompts this time. I considered using a reward, but I like all the prompts. And so I found what I needed. I got on all but 3 of the books that I needed to get on. And those 3, one of them is my genreathon book. I couldn't make it fit for a prompt. That's normally an extra prompt anyway, so that wasn't too bad. And the other 2 are for the theme vlog, and they're pretty short, so I'm not too worried about that either. But yeah, I got the books, so let's go ahead and get into it. Of course, we started with our character, which was little Eeyore here, or big Eeyore. He's kind of quite large for the board and in comparison to the other little guys, but I was happy to get Eeyore. I absolutely love Eeyore. He's my favorite character, always has been, and his prompt was to either read a literary book or a dystopian book. And so for this one, I have a book for my ABC title challenge that I need to get on. I'm trying to wrap them all up by the end of November, because December I do my 24 Days of Bookmas, and that one is Year Zero by Jeff Long, so this is my Y title. And this one says, in Jerusalem, an American archaeologist working on Project Year Zero, the search for the historical Jesus, crosses the line between science and theft when he helps plunder an old Roman landfill beneath the crucifixion grounds known as Golgotha. Nathan Lee Swift's crime will have devastating consequences. When an ancient relic is opened on the black market, a 2,000-year-old plague is unleashed, and the dying begins. As the pestilence threatens to wipe out humanity, he finds a chance for redemption by finding the cure. Skirting the edges of civilization, Nathan Lee sets out to find his younger daughter and travels to Los Alamos, where a desperate tactic has been adopted. The use of human lab rats cloned from Project Year Zero remains. Now Nathan Lee will come face to face with one special cloned human who may hold the key to salvation in more ways than one. Patient Zero claims to remember who he is, and his name is Jesus Christ. So we'll see. It could be very distasteful, or it could be really, really interesting. I like kind of like biblical type things, but we'll see how it's done. So that's going to be my pick for Eeyore there. Then we drew a blue disc, which is typically sci-fi, and this one is a bookworm. It doesn't want to focus. Loved one picked, and so I typically just go with my husband. It's the easiest. for me. And so I basically told him, you can either do any sci-fi you can think of, or these are the sci-fis that are on my shelf. And so he chose The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. I picked this up at a thrift store and didn't realize it was a sci-fi. And then I was reading it and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So this was the one he picked. And it doesn't really have a synopsis. It just says, an experience not to be missed. If you have to send a group of people to a newly discovered planet to contact a totally unknown species, whom would you choose? How about 4 Jesuit priests, a young astronomer, a physician, her engineer husband, and a child prostitute turned computer expert? That's who Mary Doria Russell sends in her new novel, The Sparrow. This motley combination of agnostics, true believers, and misfits becomes the first to explore the Alpha Centauri world of Rakhat, with both enlightening and disastrous results. Vivid and engaging, an incredible novel. And that's from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. So yeah, it looks like you have a ragtag crew that goes to this planet. So we'll see how I get along with that one. Then we pulled an orange disc, which is mystery, thriller, or horror. And for this one, we got Tigger, which is out of comfort zone, because Tigger's always, he thinks he likes stuff, but he doesn't really know. And then he tries it and realizes he doesn't always like it. But for this one, I went with my buzzword for the month, which the buzzword is only. And so I went with The Only Survivors by Miranda. It's not completely outside my comfort zone, but I don't typically read a lot of this type of mystery thriller type books. I don't really gravitate to them. I do tend to enjoy them when I do read them, but they're not something I'm very drawn to. And Miranda, I've heard mixed things. And so that's kind of why it's a little bit outside my comfort zone as well. But it does sound interesting. It says, let's see, 7 hours in the past, 7 days in the present, 7 survivors remaining. Who would you save? A decade ago, 2 vans filled with high school seniors on a service trip crashed into a Tennessee ravine, a tragedy that claimed the lives of multiple classmates and teachers. The 9 students who managed to escape the river that night were irrevocably changed. A year later, after one of the survivors dies by suicide on the anniversary of the crash, the rest of them make a pact to come together each year to commemorate that terrible night, to keep one another safe, to hold one another accountable, or both. Their annual meeting place, a house on the Outer Banks, has long been a refuge, but by the 10th anniversary, Cassidy Bent has worked to distance herself from the tragedy and from the other survivors. She's changed her mobile number, she's blocked the others' email addresses. This year, she is determined to finally break ties once and for all. But on the day of the reunion, she receives a text with an obituary attached. Another survivor is gone. Now they are 7, and Cassidy finds herself hurtling back toward the group, wild with grief and suspicion. Almost immediately, something feels off this year. Cassidy is the first to notice when Amaya, the annual organizer, slips away, overwhelmed. This wouldn't raise alarm except for the impending storm. Suddenly, they're facing the threat of closed roads and surging waters again. Then Amaya stops responding to her phone. After all they've been through, she wouldn't willfully make them worry, would she? And as they promised long ago, each survivor will do whatever he or she can to save one another, won't they? A propulsive and chilling lockbox mystery filled with the dazzling hairpin twists that are the author's signature. So, there we go. Another one I found at the thrift store. Then we pulled a black, which means we move forward 3 spaces. In this case, we landed on a green. And then we do have to pull 2 honey jar prompts. I was not able to make the prompts work together, not with what I have. So the first one we pulled was Pinocchio, which is a translated work. And so for this one, we're going to be going with The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And so this one, it sounds like it might have some like fantastical elements, possibly, because he's kind of searching for treasure. But it says Paulo Coelho's enchanting novel has inspired a devoted following around the world. This story, dazzling in its powerful simplicity and soul-stirring wisdom, is about an Andalusian shepherd boy named Santiago who travels from his homeland in Spain to the Egyptian desert in search of a treasure buried near the pyramids. Along the way, he meets a gypsy woman, a man who calls himself king, and an alchemist, all of who point Santiago in the direction of his quest. No one knows what the treasure is or if Santiago will be able to surmount the obstacles in his path. But what starts out as a journey to find worldly goods turns into a discovery of the treasure found within. Lush, evocative, and deeply humane, the story of Santiago is an eternal testament to the transforming power of our dreams and the importance of listening to our hearts. So, yeah, that will be what I do for translated work. The other prompt I pulled was Tigger, Tiggr, which is an ABC author. And so I did a random letter generator, which I'll put up now. And this one I got the letter H. Excuse me. Not a fantasy, but it is another one for my ABC title challenge, so I needed to get it on here. And that is Zach's Law by Kay Hooper. This one says, when car trouble leaves her stranded in the deserted corner of the Rockies, love is the last thing on Teddy Tyler's mind. But there's no denying the attraction that grips her the minute she lays eyes on Zach Steele, a rugged security expert staking out a gang of gun runners in a remote mountain cabin. Zach has survived this long by adhering to a few simple principles: travel light, travel fast, and travel alone. Now, to keep from blowing his cover, he must hold Teddy hostage for a week. If, that is, he can keep at bay his own simmering feelings for her. Teddy's not that easily confined, especially when her man's in danger. So when a simple surveillance job turns into a deadly game of cat and mouse, she must convince the original lone wolf to let her help, or see their chance at love fall prey to one of Zach's deadliest enemies. So this is obviously for my Z title. So there's that one. Then we got another blue. It was blue heavy this month. And for this one, we got The Little Mermaid. Let's see if it will focus. And this is paternal main character, because obviously King Triton is a big part of The Little Mermaid. So for this one, I'm going with book 9 in the Barbarian Alien series, and that is Barbarian's Heart, Ice Planet Barbarians, that's what it is. Ice Planet Barbarian series. Barbarian's Heart by Ruby Dixon. And I went with this one because, one, they're very much about mating and making their babies, and this one, they already have a kit. So it says, I never spent a day without my mate since arriving on the ice planet. I'm happy and in love, and we have a beautiful child together. All that changed when the world shook. My mate nearly died. He wakes up from his coma and he can't remember me or our son. Every memory of the past 2 years is gone, and that changes everything between us. How can I love someone who doesn't remember me? How can I not when I know he's still my mate underneath it all? And so the back obviously is from her point of view, but these books, it always goes back and forth between the male and the female point of view. So the male is very much prominent in the books. And they have a child, and you're gonna have to try to remember him, it sounds like. So there is that. Then we got another orange, which is again mystery, thriller, or horror. And for this one, we got Little Red Riding Hood, which was red cover. We've gotten this in the past, and I have yet to fulfill it. I thought about going with the book I put on there before, but I'm not filling it. And I do have this one. So this is The Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And yeah, I'm very intrigued. This one's not typically one I would read, but I'm kind of intrigued by it. And so I found it at a thrift store and picked it up. And now the month, hopefully, November's the month for it. So it says, Alan Conway is a best-selling crime writer. His editor, Susan Ryland, has worked for him for years, and she is intimately familiar with his detective Atticus Pun, who solves mysteries disturbing sleepy English villages. Alan's traditional formula pays homage to queens of classic British crime such as Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers. It's proved hugely successful, so successful that Susan must continue to put up with his troubling behavior if she wants to keep her job. When Susan receives Alan's latest manuscript, in which Atticus Pun investigates a murder at Pye Hall, an English manor house, she has no reason to think it will be any different from the others. There will be dead bodies, a cast of intriguing suspects, and plenty of red herrings and clues. But the more Susan reads, the more she realizes that there's another story hidden in the pages of the manuscript, one of ambition, jealousy, and greed, and that soon it will lead to murder. Masterful, clever, and ruthlessly suspenseful, Magpie Murders is a deviously dark take on vintage crime fiction. So, yeah, we'll see how I get along with this one, but I am very intrigued by it. So, there's that. Then let's see here. Then we got a red, which is a romance. And this one is Rabbit, Not My Garden, because Tigger is always destroying her garden. And so this was supposed to be more like kind of a Lemony Snicket's type, like just a series of unfortunate events type one. But I'm kind of doing a more serious twist on it. This is not a romance, so I'm foregoing the genre. But I'm going to be reading Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown. This is going to be part of the themed vlog. So it says, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee is D. Brown's classic panoramic account of the systematic destruction of the American Indian over the second half of the 19th century. So kind of just that, destroying their livelihood over and over and over again is kind of how I'm tying it in with Not My Garden. So that's where that comes in. Using council records, autobiographies, and first-hand descriptions, Brown allowed great chiefs and warriors of the Dakota, Ute, Sioux, Cheyenne, and other tribes to tell us in their own words of battles, massacres, and broken treaties, of the losses they suffered as the American West was won. Since its original publication in 1971, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee has been translated into 17 languages and sold nearly 5 million copies. But as best-selling author Hampton Sides writes in his new foreword for this edition of the book, its success doesn't begin to suggest the high-voltage shock it gave and continues to give the national identity. It was as though someone had thrown a switch, as though Bury My Knee has caused Americans to rethink everything, to reset the moral compass and start over again. As is the case with other rare books that forever change the way their subjects are perceived, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee continues to shock and eliminate. So that is what I'm going for with that one. And then let's see here. Then we got another blue. But for this one, the prompt was Aladdin, which is genie or jinn. So obviously that doesn't really fit with the sci-fi. It's definitely fantasy. And I only had really one book. Well, I had two, but one I've already read before. So I'm going to be going with Children of the Lamp by P.B. Kerr. This is book one in the Akhenaten adventure. So I haven't heard great things about this, but I found it at a thrift store and I am very intrigued by it. This one obviously doesn't have a dust jacket, but basically you have two twins. I think it's a middle grade, and you have two twins and they learn that they're jinn, and so they have magical abilities and can get wishes and such, and so they get sent off to train with their uncle, I believe. So that's what I'm going for with that. Then we got another blue, and this one was a bookworm, and it's a book talk pick. Sorry, it's not wanting to focus because the light's going. So book talk pick. So I went on book talk. I'll insert a thing here. Kind of looked at a few creators before I found this one, and this one immediately saw Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which I actually have right here, so I can hold it up. So I already read Red Rising, but Golden Sun was right next to that. And since I've already started the series, there was a couple others that I was interested in, but I've already started the series. So I'm going to be reading Golden Sun by Pierce Brown, which is the second one following Red Rising. And so in this series, you basically have, what is his name? Darrow. And they have like a colored class system. And so the reds are the bottom of the barrel, and they've been like underground for years on Mars, and they're told like what they're doing is setting up for a future on Mars where people can live, but people have already been living on Mars for hundreds of years. And so Dario basically goes undercover, and he's trying to rise through the ranks and infiltrate the golds, essentially. So next is Golden Sun, which is what I'll be reading for this. I'll just kind of put this as a placeholder there. And then let's see here. Then we had a slew of unusable discs. We had 7 initially before we finally pulled an orange, which allowed us to move. And again, mystery, thriller, or horror. And this one is Hercules, No Damsel in Distress. Finally did that one. And so for this one, I'm foregoing the genre because this book works perfect for it, and I want to continue on the series. So I'm going to be reading the next book in the Throne of Glass series, which is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. And I mentioned this before, but I tried Akatar, did not like it. And I was just kind of like, maybe that's not for me. I found The Assassin's Blade at a thrift store, which is the prequel novellas, read that and fell in love. And so I finally was able to read Throne of Glass a couple months ago. And I immediately got the next one, which is Crown of Midnight. I'm trying to collect the original covers because I like them so much better. I think the new covers are ugly. Like, I do not like them. I love the original covers. So I've been collecting them. I found this one on eBay. Said it's in acceptable condition, which I don't see anything wrong with it. So I don't know. I know they kind of got to be careful, but I don't see anything wrong with it. It's in really good shape, and I got it for $10. And everywhere else, people are asking like $30, like on Pango and such, for the original covers. Like between $20 and $30 to get it, and I got this for 10. So free shipping, and I also got, it was a buy 2 get 1 free. So I bought it 2 other books, and I got one of those for free. So I love it. Basically, you have Selena, and she is an assassin. She was in jail, and in the first book, she gets pulled from prison, and she's in this competition to become the king's assassin. So we're now following along in the aftermath of that. So I'm really excited to continue that for sure. So there's that. Then let's see here, we had another unusable disc that we couldn't move forward, and then we finally pulled a red, which got us to the North Pole, which means it can be any genre. And for this one, we got Elsa and Anna, which is Insidious Takeover, because of, I forget his name, but you know, he tries to take over the kingdom but act like he's gonna, you know, marry Anna, and but he's really trying to take over the kingdom. So for this one, I'm going to be continuing on with another series that I wanted to for a while, and that's The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. This is the second one in the Prison Healer series. Or the Prison Healer is the first one in the book. I don't know if that's the series name. But basically in these books, Kiva, in the Prison Healer, she's in this prison, and she's the healer of the prison. But she gets this prisoner, which she's tasked with keeping alive until she can face these elemental trials. So there's like elemental magic in there. But she ends up taking that prisoner's place. And so this is all following the aftermath of that. I can't really say why it's an Insidious takeover, but there's kind of rebel factions and such. And, you know, people trying to take the throne from the royal family. So it does work, but I can't really say without giving anything away, other than there's rebel factions and such, which you know in the first book and such. So I'm going to be continuing on with that. I'm so excited, and then hopefully I can pick up the third one fairly soon as well and finish up that. I think it's just a trilogy. Okay, so then we ended up with 8 unusable discs. We pulled a green, then a blue, then a green, then a yellow, then a purple, then a green, then a yellow, then another purple before we got to red. And so for this one, I'm doing my last book for my ABC title challenge, which is for the X title, and that's XO by Jeffrey Deaver. And this one ends on page. It has like a little section of like songs, but other than that, it ends on page. I don't think you can see that. There you go, 468. And then it has like a little section of the songs from the book because country pop's ingenue Kaylee Towns' career is just reaching new heights with her huge hit single Your Shadow, but fame is also bringing unwanted attention. An innocent exchange with a family leads Kaylee into the dangerous and terrifying realm of obsession, and when California Bureau of Investigation agent Catherine Dance intervenes on the singer's behalf, she draws the admirer's ominous attention to herself. Then a member of Kaylee's road crew is murdered in an eerie echo of her chart-topping song. As Catherine Dance races to stop the stalker with her considerable skills of investigation and body language analysis, she soon discovers that Kaylee has more than one frightening fan with a mission. So it's a Catherine Dance novel. This is the third one in the series, I believe, but I'm not too fussed about jumping in at this point. Like I said, it just fits for my ABC title challenge. And so that is it for the game books. But we do have 3 more. So we have my genre-a-thon book, which this month it is Thanksgiving, and to read either a Native American literature or a book about Indigenous culture. And so I'm going to be rereading, because I've already actually read this, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I knew I read this like about a year ago in September, and I knew I wanted to reread it again in November of the next year, which now's the time. And I wanted to take my time with it and annotate it and everything like that. So that's what I'm going to be reading. It is a little outside my comfort zone, even though I've already read it, because it is kind of dense, and I know that going in, which is a little intimidating. And I'm also going to be annotating it, which I don't typically do. I might put like a tab in a book, but I don't typically annotate at all. And so yeah, this one though kind of combines like with ecology with the Native American teachings. And it says, as a botanist, Robin Wall Kimmerer has been trained to ask questions of nature with the tools of science. As a member of the citizen Potawatomi tribe or nation, she embraces the notion that plants and animals are our oldest teachers. In Braiding Sweetgrass, Kimmerer brings these lenses of knowledge together to show that the awakening of a wider ecological consciousness requires the acknowledgement and celebration of our reciprocal relationship with the rest of the living world. For only when we can hear the languages of other beings we are now capable of understanding the generosity of the earth and learning to give our own gifts in return. And I remember reading this, and every time I just felt refreshed and just it was very kind of healing in a sense. So I can't wait to reread this and actually annotate it. So like I said, that's my genre-a-thon. And then for the themed vlog, which that's also going to be part of the themed vlog. But we also are going to be reading The Painted Drum by Louise Erdrich. And so I'm excited to read this one. It says, while praising the estate of a New Hampshire family descended from the North Dakota Indian agent, Faye Travers is startled to discover a rare moose skin and a cedar drum fashioned long ago by an Ojibwe artisan. And so begins an illuminating journey both backward and forward in time, following the strange passage of a powerful yet delicate instrument, and revealing the extraordinary lives it has touched and defined. Compelling and unforgettable, Louise Erdrich's Painted Drum explores the often fraught relationship between mothers and daughters, the strength of family, and the intricate rhythms of grief, with all the grace, wit, and startling beauty that characterizes this acclaimed author's finest work. So, be reading that as well. And then we also have another reread. which is a collection of poems, which I actually read for my genre-a-thon last year. And we're going to be reading The Death of Sitting Bear by N. Scott Momaday. It's new and selected poems. And so it says, and you can see I did tab up this one, some of my favorite poems I tabbed up, which there was a lot of them. And I'm not a poetry reader. Poetry is definitely outside my comfort zone. It says, one of the most distinguished and unique voices in American letters, N. Scott Momaday, was born into the Kiowa tribe and grew up on Indian reservations throughout the American Southwest. The customs and heritage that influenced his upbringing, notably the Native American oral tradition, are the centerpieces of his work. The Death of Sitting Bear showcases as never before Momaday's extraordinary lyrical talent and the matters closest to his heart. The title poem is a memorial to the great Kiowa warrior and chief, a formidable man, singular and mysterious, one who exists now in the distance of myth and oral history, Momaday writes. I feel his presence close in my blood and imagination, and I sing him an honor song. To Momaday, words are sacred, language is power. Spanning nearly 50 years, the poems included in this collection illuminate the human condition, Momaday's connection to his Kiowa roots, and his spiritual relationship to the American landscape. Here, too, are meditations of mortality, love, and loss, as well as reflections on the incomparable and hollowed terrain of his native Southwest. The Death of Sitting Bear evokes the essence of human experience and speaks to us all. So I'm excited to reread that as part of my themed vlog. So that is the books. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, plus the choice for Autism Reads, which is put on by Christine and an autistic reader. I don't remember what that one is. It's the young adult choice though. So I'll have to get that one. So that will be on there as well. But yeah, I'm excited for all these books. I think it's going to be a really great month. I think there's a nice mix in there of some fantasy, some sci-fi, uh, some romance, a little bit of romance, and yeah, just kind of some thrillery books as well. Let me know what you are excited to read coming up. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you're interested in reading any of these books. I'd love to know that down in the comments below. But as always, if you don't know what to comment and you just want to let me know you're here and you're supporting the channel, you can leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.